welcome to Good Game. I'm Bajo.
And I'm Hex.
Hex, it's nice to see developers trying new ideas even when they're working in a familiar genre, and we've got a bit of that this week.
Yeah, including a look at a turn-based strategy game that has a bit of a stealthy vibe.
Also a game that brings us together as a team as we run for our lives fighting off waves and waves of nasty creatures.
And the crowd goes wild.
And Goose tries to play the hero.
But before all that, can you name the game?
Here's what's making headlines. BioWare veteran Casey Hudson has joined Microsoft Studios as creative director. Hudson worked at BioWare for 16 years and in that time was project director on some of its biggest games, such as Knights of the Old Republic and the Mass Effect trilogy. Now, as Microsoft Studios creative director, he'll focus on development of experiences for the upcoming HoloLens augmented reality headset, as well as assist with other Xbox and Windows titles. Oculus VR has announced that it's halting development on Mac and Linux support for their upcoming headset. Chief architect Atman Binstock said development for those platforms had been paused to focus on delivering a high-quality launch on Windows early next year. He added that they intend to get back to supporting those platforms, but they don't have a timeline to do so as of yet. Blizzard has swung its mighty banhammer against World of Warcraft players who use bots to automate actions. Over 100,000 users copped temporary but lengthy 6-month bans for the offence. Blizzard was able to detect the cheaters with its program Warden, which it installs alongside its games to detect banned software on players' computers and then reports the cheaters back to them. And that's all for this week.
Thanks, Goose. Killing Floor 2 is a wave mode co-op shooter brought to us by Tripwire Interactive.
I didn't expect that all to start so quickly. It's so Hex!
Oh, this all went silly.
Hex, throw a health grenade!
I'm out. You're on your own. Bye, everyone. Don't go, grenade. It's terrifying. It's like cloaked.
No time for talking.
The first Killing Floor came out in 2009, and it was actually a remake of an Unreal Tournament mod. Over time, it developed a massive cult following. There was just something a bit magical about this little shooter.
Oh, absolutely. It was competing with Left 4 Dead 1 at the time, but Killing Floor had a different pace and a few strategic features that set it apart, like welding doors. But it was the charming garage indie feel of this game that really grew its community.
Yeah, fans really wanted it to succeed, and it did. The developer kept the game alive over the years with DLC that never unbalanced the game's core. Killing Floor 2 is in early access, so we were very keen to jump in and see how it's holding up.
Roger, my first impressions of this game was that it was very stressful. What the hell is that?
That's a screamy girl.
It really gets the blood pumping, doesn't it? Especially when you're cornered and there's just no way out.
This isn't going quite as good as I wanted it. Can they jump down here? Can they jump? They can jump. I'm just gonna... Oh dear! Oh dear! Oh dear!
There's a big step up in visuals with this sequel. It's a slick-looking game with beautiful detail that's right up there with any other shooter out there.
The basic premise is the same, though. There are weird clone army alien things, and you and a team of up to 5 others have to stop them. And that's no easy task, especially when you can't predict what's coming next.
Yeah, it's the variety of enemies and the unique strategies that you need to develop to take them down that keeps this game fresh and keeps you on your toes. And just when you think things are under control, 5 guys with swords for arms bust out of nowhere.
Watch your back!
Oh no, why the hell?
Guys!
This is like my nightmare. Why? Go away.
It's a fun, pretty gross mix of enemies, Bajo, but I feel like all of them could probably benefit from some pants.
Agreed.
And a man with a chainsaw.
It's time for the butt shot. Oh, he turned around.
I like how you're constantly readjusting your position and your plan depending on what's going on.
But it can help you.
Or just running. Lots of running.
Let me test my new nerve gas.
And when you fought off enough waves, it's time to face the boss, and he's a total jerk.
You think you are somehow better? More gas! More gas! We'll have some grenades will finish you. You want guns? Here.
It's such a good fight though. There's only one boss in early access right now, but more are planned.
In between rounds, you barely have enough time to purchase more ammo, armor, and guns. And there's strategy in when you decide to save your cash and when to spend. Ammo is precious and every missed shot will hurt. You just can't spam in this game, you'll run out of bullets. Spam is death.
It's really focused on aiming well and good headshots, isn't it?
Yeah, and just panicking during reloads.
I got this.
Just
I got this.
Go, Bajo!
Run! She slows me down.
Panicking in general.
And for some reason, it was always Goose who was left alive last.
Yeah, it was always worth losing though, just to watch him get so upset.
Oh, that
What's
doesn't
that?
sound good. He's coming.
Oh my god!
Oh, he's so close to you.
I don't want to turn around.
That was amazing.
Is there any left?
There's one more left.
Oh, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no.
He's coming.
What I like most of all though, Bajo, is when things are thrown into slow motion.
Like a shotgun to the face. Oh, what's he doing? Whoa! Look at him go!
It's a spectacular effect, allowing you to still aim at the same speed, but slowing down everyone's movement. This means it's more of an offensive bonus rather than a way to escape, and that means you focus more on movement.
I love that slow-mo so much. It's just so satisfying. Welding doors returns, of course, to keep enemies at bay.
Locking it up.
I'm not sure why I'm welding it.
I'd hate to be that door.
But most of all, this game is about keeping an eye on your teammates' backs and not getting left behind.
Yeah, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and taken out.
I was like stuck in a corner.
Oh,
It was
no.
awful.
That is terrifying. So welding didn't help us much in this part.
If you die, you can come back next round, but if you're in the latter waves, one death can mean game over, so you have to constantly be watching everyone's health.
There's only 4 classes and a handful of maps right now, so Hex, I did find it got pretty stale quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could change as more classes and maps are introduced as development progresses.
I think so too. And there's also mod support and custom servers as well. There is some balancing that needs to be done. Some of the tougher enemies go down way too quickly. But that's what early access is for.
It's a little hard to recommend this game right now unless you're a mega fan, but I do think it's a promising start for this sequel.
Yes, I agree, and we'll check out the final version when it's finished. But now, Hex, it's time for us to go to the Ask Good Game desk and answer some questions.
All right. All right, this week we've got a question from Daniel in Tumbiumbi, New South Wales. Hi. I was wondering, what do you think of the recent closure of 2K Canberra, and how will this impact the game development industry in Australia? Do you think there is any future for AAA game development down under?
Well, Daniel, it's such disappointing news. It's always sad to see a big studio close its doors and talented people lose their jobs.
And it's been a long, slow decline for big Aussie developers over the years. One by one, they've vanished from the scene, and it's especially sad when most of them were doing such good work on games that were pretty well received.
Yeah, when I started working on Good Game, there were heaps of big studios here in Australia, like Chrome, Blue Tongue, Pandemic, Team Bondi, Creative Assembly, THQ, Visceral, and I'm probably still forgetting a few, but now all those studios are gone.
What in the revolution?
I guess that just goes to show with the way things are at the moment, AAA development in Australia just isn't really feasible. International publishers see Australia as just too far away and too expensive. I guess if it made sense to develop AAA games here, I think we'd see more publishers doing it.
Yeah, and for our AAA scene to really get back on its feet, we would at least need similar types of tax and business incentives for game development, like there are in places like Montreal, for example.
It would be great to have big AAA studios down under to provide jobs for local devs and support a strong, stable industry. But the 2K closure is by no means the end of development in Australia.
Absolutely. We've still got a vibrant indie scene, and we've got a couple of the world's best mobile developers, with Fire Monkeys and Halfbrick Studios still doing great work.
Yeah, I think it's actually a great time to be an indie dev. Almost every major game engine is free to use, and crowdfunding can let anyone with a good idea have a shot at getting a leg up and maybe even get all the funding they need. Nowadays, it's also easier to self-publish your games on just about every platform than it's ever been.
And indie devs around the world are coming up with games that rival any AAA titles titles in almost all regards, from their scope, originality, graphics, and even sales. But of course, making any game is still an incredibly difficult task.
Yes, and I think in general, AAA game development is especially difficult to get going.
Yeah, hundreds of people can work on just one game for years and years and years, and if it fails, the whole studio can fail. Even if it succeeds, the entire studio can risk going under.
Yeah, AAA development also requires a huge investment and is substantial risk for publishers.
But I think on that note, it's your review time. And speaking of big AAA games, let's see what everyone thought of the latest Battlefield Hardline.
Give it the boot, Mendoza.
You know you need a warrant for that.
Play nice, boys.
Sounds good, and it looks like there's very little consensus with scores all over the shop. At the positive end of the spectrum, we had this one from Lombax's Praetorian Guard, who wrote, 11 out of 10, would run people over with couch again. 5 stars.
Tom Clark was also clearly impressed, writing, bloody brilliant, mate. 5 stars.
Also, Biggles84 here clearly enjoyed it as well, writing, what ho, chaps? I must admit a jolly guilty pleasure in this particular game. Sure, there are some weapon balancing to be done, and the usual, it wouldn't be Battlefield if the netcode wasn't up to scratch. But for some reason, I love it. The single player was stellar for Battlefield. In my eyes, nothing like having the option to say, you're nicked, squire. And if it all goes, US version of The Office, you can stick knock their noggins in. Rather, 4.5 stars.
You are a trip.
Then somewhere in the middle, we have Shaggish, who wrote, not too bad, 3 stars.
And it seems like Guest here wasn't impressed with the story, saying, really liked the multiplayer, it's just the story was so stupid. It's like they threw common sense out the window and did what they could to add explosion, and stupid things like taking down the water tower to swim up the elevator shaft, when most elevator shafts have ladders anyway.
You know what? You're right.
2.5 stars.
Not even sure if you can flood an elevator shaft in real life. And the kid with no friends was fairly indifferent, saying, it's an alright game, but not one of my favourite Battlefields. 2 stars.
Wait, what?
Meanwhile, at the bottom of the pile, we had Cool Guy who wasn't impressed at all and wrote, bad, 1 star.
Likewise, the inexperienced gamer wasn't a fan and said, terrible campaign, worst I've ever played. Why? Dice, why? The only reason it gets half a star is for multiplayer.
Sorry to disappoint.
Half a star. Although it is worth pointing out, DICE didn't actually make this whole game, they just helped. It was developed by Visceral Games.
Don't forget, if you'd like to leave a review, you can do so on our app or via our website.
Not a Hero is a fast-paced 2D side-scrolling shooter from developer Roll7, who brought us last year's thumbstick-breaking title Ollie Ollie. But forget about any radical shredding, this is all about ridiculous shooting.
Hey! I wasn't gonna... I'm out of ammo! Move it, let's go!
Switching out boards for bullets and grinding for guns sounds like an awesome evolution for the developer. But even from the start, it is hard to avoid comparing Not a Hero to the growing number of games out there that share so many similar mechanics and design choices. Something that, at first, I was rather skeptical of.
Use me and abuse me. Shotgun problem solver.
Starting with the story, in Not a Hero, you play as one of 9 anti-heroes hired by a giant purple rabbit known as Bunny Lord, who's travelled back in time and needs you to help him campaign as mayor to help save the world from total annihilation. Outrageous premise full of ridiculous dialogue? Check. This is done by shooting your way through a total of 21 multi-leveled high-rise stages, each filled with gun-toting goons ripe for the blasting and explosive power-ups to blast them with. Retro look and feel? Check and check. And as you complete each stage and their optional objectives, including time limits,
The people's floppy friend.
collectibles, or just wiping out all the enemies, you'll unlock the full cast of non-heroes, each with their own zany personality, unique weapon, and added skill set.
Down, boy.
Extra objectives, unlocks, satirical characters, check, check, and check. We've seen all this before in titles like Super Time Force, The Showdown Effect, Hotline Miami, and Broforce. The last two of which actually share the same publisher with Not a Hero, Devolver, who've made a name for themselves supporting this particular genre of neon nostalgic arcade blaster. So what does Not a Hero bring to the table that hasn't already been done to death? Well, the good news is it's actually the game's core mechanic of cover-based shooting which is the real star here. In addition to your side-scrolling movement, players can perform a lengthy slide before snapping to cover and becoming invulnerable from enemy fire.
Fuck you! You what, mate?
And being a two-dimensional game, you won't actually have to worry about finding any physical cover to hide behind, which means you'll have more time to focus on avoiding enemy fire and maintaining your health and ammo, which are infinite and regenerative respectively. This mechanic encourages you to hastily rush forward and react accordingly. It's not exactly the safest technique, but I think that's kind of the point. Enemies will also flank and rush you, especially when you're in cover, so you're always motivated to push onwards. To add to the chaos, there's also different bullet types to pick up, secondary weapons like grenades, turrets, and even a kitty bomb. Aww.
No ammo.
Also, the always appreciated hero slide can knock your enemies flat for a moment, leaving them open for a quick and pixelatedly, bloodily gruesome takedown. Individually, these moves are responsive, they're useful, and they're actually really fun to pull off, feeling very much like the violent sibling to Ollie Ollie. And just like its predecessor, it's when you begin to chain these moves together in succession that things in the game go from bland to ballistic. It's in these moments that Not a Hero feels different enough to warrant mastering, but at the same time still strangely familiar and approachable.
You're getting murked.
And while each of the playable characters you can select are humorous enough in their own right,
These hips don't lie, you know. Hello, you!
highlighted with some great animation and voice acting, it's the game's writing, particularly the character of Bunny Lord and his long-winded briefings, that fall completely flat.
Well, I'll never walk again.
They interrupt and slow the whole pace of the game, they're not particularly funny, and they're trying just so hard to be off-the-wall wacky that it can come off as being a bit obnoxious, and to be honest, it almost put me off the rest of the game. The best advice I can give is probably just to skip these and fly straight into the next level with your adrenaline still buzzing. Especially since you'll often be returning anyway to previous stages with your pick of anti-hero to complete some challenges that you may have missed, so the story is never really that important from the beginning.
Okay, time to hit it!
Essentially, Not a Hero is a game all about momentum, and not just as a gameplay mechanic, but also as a state of mind as you progress through it. It did take me a little longer than expected to find my groove, including getting past all those irritatingly wacky speed bumps, but I was glad I did because by the time I reached the end, I was flying around the screen like a whirlwind of pixelated death. An experience everyone should try, at least once. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars.
You die!
He was a games investigator on the brink of the precipice of the edge, and he has found 8 million Easter eggs. Hello, I'm Dave Callen, games investigator. Just taking a nap from all the cases I have to solve. Like this one. It's no secret that video games are in love with the movies. Big, squishy love. But they do like to tuck a few things out of sight. One of my favorite in-game movie references was from Grand Theft Auto 5. At 7 p.m. on every day on top of a cliff just near the Altruist compound, there's a recreation of that classic closing scene from the film Thelma and Louise. Adios, senoras. Well, that's another case closed from Dave Callen, GI. That's GI, Games Investigator, not GI, Gluten Intolerant Guy. But I am that as well. Anyway, I'm gonna go catch up on my foot dangling. See you around the traps.
We need to get to the 3rd floor. We can make our way to the server room from there.
You can run, scum, but you can't hide!
What was that? Investigating.
They should have detected us by now.
Taking out this door.
Receiving priority wireless transmission.
They're onto you. Get out. Get out of there!
Invisible, Inc. is a turn-based strategy stealth game about a top-secret agency in the year 2074.
Mega corporations have overthrown the world's national governments. So you must operate a team of elite agents on a series of missions to gain intel, steal weaponry and software to gain the upper hand.
Yes, it's a daunting task, but you have one big weapon up your sneaky spy sleeve, a sophisticated AI system known as Incognita.
Pattern resolution at 50%. Nearing confidence threshold.
Hex, the first thing I noticed about this game was its brilliant art style. It's a beautifully designed game with all of the animation, level design, and menus helping to set a really exciting scene.
Yeah, it feels sharp and authentic, doesn't it? Tactical games such as this can often feel a bit drab and techy, but there's a slickness to the detail here that makes every action so exciting.
Being secret agents, the game relies heavily on stealth. You can move a certain number of spaces in each turn, making use of a peek function to unveil the fog of war as you move from room to room without being spotted.
In each mission, you'll of course have a main objective, like obtain some augments for Incognita or recover some information. But going out of your way to access every locked door and hack every corporate safe will land you with loads of credits to spend on upgrades, which are invaluable.
Another element to manage is power. You'll need this to use Incognita for the hefty hacks, like safes, alarms, and security cameras, so you have to factor in visits to power terminals in your turns as well. In some of the more complicated levels, there's a lot that needs hacking, but you've only got limited power, so you have to be very strategic about how you use those power points.
We don't have visibility on the hallway. You'll have to manually check for hostiles.
There's a great tutorial to get you started, and the game eases you in with a few fairly simple levels. In addition to taking out security cameras to remain unseen, you'll also need to factor in guards' line of sight.
Intruder!
Guards can be knocked out and pinned to the floor, or you can lure them towards you with an ambush maneuver.
Guess it was nothing.
But occasionally you'll find yourself in checkmate and you'll just get shot.
If an agent goes down, you can either try and get your other agent over there to revive them, or you can just drag them to the exit if you're lucky enough to have found it and be close enough to it. Otherwise, they're gone for good.
Damn it, operator. Be more careful with our assets.
I like that you've got the option to rewind a number of turns depending on the level of difficulty you choose, which is a nice safety net to rely on while you're still learning the ropes.
Yeah, the default for beginner is 5 rewinds, which I think is a good number for anyone who isn't a pro in this genre, but there are loads of ways to make it much tougher for veterans too.
Each agent has a number of skills and augments to use, which you can add to and upgrade throughout the game.
Augment installed.
I didn't make much use of these at first, but they become lifesavers once you get to the tougher levels.
Yeah, it gets crazy, doesn't it?
What was that?
With each turn, the security level increases. More guards will appear.
Additional guard patrols.
Cameras you've hacked get reclaimed, and if you've used up most of your power store, you have limited options when you're trying to make it through a minefield alive.
Investigating. Stop.
Yeah, it's tough because your natural instinct is to split up so you can cover more ground and complete your main objective more quickly. But then you have the task of trying to get one character back to the other who is near the exit. And with each turn, the path is fraught with more danger.
Yeah, at one point I had an agent that had found the payload but didn't have the security pass to unlock it.
Warning.
Then my other agent found it, but of course she was on the other side of the map. Suddenly there were bugs that deployed if I made too much noise, drones that prevented me from hacking anything. I mean, if you aren't smart about the efficiency in which you get through the map, the security just gets too high and you'll find yourself trapped.
I love how it's that classic Metal Gear alarm sound when you're spotted too. So stressful.
Intruder!
Yeah, the guards are great and they're all like looking around trying to sniff you out.
Another thing to keep in mind is that incapacitated guards will only stay down for 3 turns. You can pin them to the spot if you stay put, but it's easy to forget about them while you're poking around the rooms, and suddenly they're on your tail again.
There are abilities to keep in mind too. There is a cloaking skill that comes in handy, but probably the most invaluable tool that I found was the sprint, particularly after you've upgraded your agent's speed.
Hey, investigating.
You can use it to move through high awareness areas quickly without being spotted. I mean, there was one level that was quite literally a race to the end, Bajo. I had no power to hack anything, it was just a mad dash for survival. It was unbelievably nerve-wracking.
Yeah, this game gets so intense, doesn't it? This is such a good example of tactical turn-based strategy wrapped up in a polished package.
Yeah, and what's so great about it is that it's complex and deep enough for even the most hardened of strategy players. And yet they've included the tools there to make it accessible to newcomers as well, which is rarely the case for this genre, I think.
One thing I would have liked is just a bit more variety in the look and feel of each place. In the menu, you see your agents supposedly flying all over the world, but each level looks pretty much identical to the last one.
Yeah, that's fair. It is the future though, so I think they get away with everything looking a little bit more homogenized.
Other than that though, there isn't much to criticize really. What are you giving it overall, Hex?
I found this deeply satisfying to play, Bajo. I highly recommend it. Even if you wouldn't consider yourself a fan of this genre, give Invisible Ink a try, because I think you might be surprised. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5 stars.
I'm giving it 4 stars.
We've got work to do.
And if you'd like to see more Invisible Ink, Nick Boy did a playthrough on Pocket last week, which you can watch online.
Okay, your turn to get zapped. Magnificent. Excellent. Excellent work, Nick.
Some people say the dough gets passed from presenter to presenter.
I must warn you, she's not the same Hex you once knew.
You can't name the game. You can't name the game.
Also, I got a haircut.
Bajo!
It was a dream. Hello, Bajo speaking!
Did you name the game for this week?
No, it can't be true! No, oh wait, yes I did. It was N Plus from 2008. Available on handheld devices as well as the Xbox 360, you controlled a fast-moving ninja with the directional pad. Your mission was to get in, collect as much gold as possible, and get out, all in a limited amount of time. And it's unnamed the game as it was developed by Slick Entertainment, who also made this week's Not a Hero.
Next week on the show, it's DayZ meets Minecraft with a touch of Skyrim in Reign of Kings. And will Ziggurat cast its spell on us all, or will it fizzle out?
If you would like more gaming goodness, you can head over to iView or our YouTube channel and check out heaps of extra GG stuff with Nick Boy and Hingers.
Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out. Goose just told me after our big Killing Floor session the other night, he had heaps of nightmares about guys with swords for arms chasing him.
It's a scary game.
Yeah, he's pretty sensitive as well. I had a dream once that a whole bunch of Guitar Hero buttons were chasing me down a hallway.
Really?
I was like, no! Not
Some of my worst dreams have been video game dreams.
Yeah, and some of my best ones.